time for this show. Let me just, of course, get into it. I know you've met already Mildred Cheche together with Anna Roach, our coaches for the under-17. Mmetoka kuambiana nini huko juu? I'm sure this is the first time you've met tangu land kutoka airport, kutoka Dominican. I'm sure you've exchanged...
Basically, walikuja kama nimetoka, so nimekuwa happy.
Yes.
Nimewaona wamefanya country proud.
Yes.
I think the issue is now how we build on that.
Very true indeed. But Barry, tell us about yourself, besides what we know already. Tell us who you are, and of course, with matters about football, and how it's tied to what you want to vie for in December, and of course, going forward.
Thank you, Tony. I think first is to say thank you for having me. It's
Karibu.
a privilege to be at TV47
Karibu.
For the first time. I believe that I'll come here a lot of times.
Anytime, please.
To share what we have for Kenyan football.
Yes.
So I joined FKF in 2016
Yes.
as a communications manager.
Yes.
And then in 2017, I was made head of communication and marketing.
Yes.
I served until 2019 when I was made CEO until my resignation in the few that came in the last few days. But my journey with football didn't start at FKF. A lot of people don't know that I was born in a small, let me call it slum,
Yes.
called Huruma Estate, in a 10 by 10 house, room moja.
10 by 10, yeah.
Yeah, so basically what used to happen is that, and I remember this vividly because I'm a firstborn in a family of 4.
Yes.
My mom used to put cushions down so that I could sleep. And in the morning when you wake up, I'm 41 today, so I grew in an era where there was no technology. We only had radios and TVs, so when you wake up in the morning, the thing that you do was to go out and play. And because of lack of resources, what I learned how to play from a very young age was football.
Yes.
I began playing at the age of 7 in the MISA program. Played under...
Position gani?
Nilikuwa midfielder. Na maybe Arocho, venye maybe amelala, unaweza muuliza zile vitu nimemfanyia. So I played U10,
Yes.
U12, U14, U16, and then also played in the FKF league. Never managed to play at top level because of school, but I'm happy that that journey has exposed me to the challenges that people at the grassroots face. But also my time at FKF has equipped me with the necessary knowledge, experience, and skill set to now offer my candidature for FKF President.
Indeed. Yeah. So at least you have history in football. My history in football is just playing for my Yakalo Primary School in Kakamega, Lurambi constituency. There's a question, of course, which you are aware of. The CS for Sports, Kipchumba Murkomen, has been very vocal about the Sports Act and not allowing presidential candidates who have been in that position for 8 years. However, you've seen it yourself, that right now, the president right now, Nick Mwendwa, has definitely just announced his candidature, but being the vice of Doris Petra. And you've heard clearly well what the CS has said, that he does not want anyone who was in the presidency. And in the presidency means both the president and the running mate, because those two are tied together. In your opinion, how do you think this will play out? And remember, people are saying that you are a Nick Mwendwa project. Yeah,
so I think I'm not a project. And if you go and try to define a project, that a project has got a start date, an end date, and resources behind it. So if I'm a project, then I'm God's project. I don't want to comment on Nick and what he's done. What I can say is that if I were me, I would not do it. Because the people who support me would view me as maybe greedy, selfish, and not considerate. However, there are those in the school of thought that say that he has a right to run. It's a different position that he's running for. He was president for 8 years, and now hopefully maybe if in the event that they win, he becomes maybe president for another 8 or 4 years. But personally, it's not something I would do as Barry. I don't think I would serve as president if elected and then come back and serve as vice president. But that is his decision. He's happy with it. There are legal questions around it. I don't want to get involved. I think my main focus is to try and talk to delegates and share my vision for Kenyan football.
And of course, in tied to that, we had rumors. These are reports coming from the kitchen of Kandanda House that there was a fallout between you and Nick Mwendwa. That those are reports that made you resign. What do you say about that? Because it's something that is good, making rounds.
I don't want to call it a fallout, Tony. Human beings evolve. The Tony Kwalanda of 2010 is not the Tony sitting before me. In fact, if you were to bring back the Tony Kwalanda of 2010 with the Tony sitting in front of me, they would probably even fight and not agree on a number of things. I am happy that I was given an opportunity to serve for 8 years under contract, 3 of those as head of communication and marketing and 5 as CEO of FKF, a role then that sorry, exposed me and built me in a way that I became more knowledgeable and more aware of the challenges that FKF, especially at the branches, face, and the unique situation that most of our clubs find themselves in. And I'm happy that the FKF president gave me this chance. I think we differed, not at a personal level, we differed on matters of principle. We talk once in a while sometimes.
Yes.
But now the focus is for me and my team to try and convince delegates that we are the best people to take Kenyan football forward. And
the delegates that you're mentioning, delegates, of course, we already know some of them. Definitely you are the General Secretary, you are aware of the list of delegates. We are going to, on the next Saturday, we are having the county elections, where the chairman and all those will be elected. Do you, in your own opinion, of course, as you try and make your way into the delegates' mindset, do you think having the kind of delegates that vote in the presidential elections going forward, should we maybe have amendments to this? Because basically what these delegates are basically administrative organs in the counties. Now these administrative organs are the ones who are now voting for the very important people in office. What do you think about that? I think that has been the trend for a while. I think in my own opinion, it needs to change.
I think the issue of the FKF statute is something that is considered by Congress. There are a few things that we feel need to change as an office. So one of them is we need to strengthen the FKF branches and the FKF decision-making process so that you do not have branch chairmen who are elected for 4 years and only come to the national office 4 times during Congress and make critical decisions that then affect football development at the grassroots level. We also feel that we need to strengthen FKF committees and judicial bodies so that the FKF president is not a mini-god. I don't sit and say, and this is just an example, TV47 does not support me, and so I don't like TV47 FC. We need to ensure that the way we handle disputes, the way we handle issues that arise around football are captured in the statutes or in the rules and regulations that govern Kenyan football. So yes, in that aspect, we feel that there needs to be some statutory changes. In the issue of the number of delegates that are voting, I would leave that to the members. I do not have a monopoly of ideas. We are running not because of what we want to be. We've said this several times. We are running because of what we think we can offer Kenyan football. And our candidature is one that I will be first amongst equal. So it's not an issue that I want to be FKF president. There is a vision behind it, a vision that is supported by a lot of people. I think the biggest shock for most people is there is a danger the way we live our lives. Most people use past experiences to determine their future, which I find to be a bit wrong. You should make future judgments using assumptions and saying, I believe if I do this, this will happen. So I believe that this election will be unique. I believe that from 9th, there will be a lot of shifts. I believe that in the end, the FKF delegates will vote with their conviction, will vote for people who have been in football and believe in football. I am happy and really privileged to have served for them and with them for the last 5 years as CEO, and of course 8 in different capacity at FKF.
How would you rate your work in FKF for the last 5 years, or for the time that you've been FKF till today, in a scale of 10? How would you rate the work of FKF in the span of these 5 years, and why?
I would leave ratings to the public, but this is what I can say factually. I believe that this federation has been the most successful federation in the history of Kenyan football. And why do I say that? We are the only federation that qualified for AFCON with women, qualified for AFCON with men, qualified for World Cup with U17, won CECAFA women, won CECAFA men, developed a youth structure, trained more coaches. In fact, in 2016, when we came into office, we only had 34 coaches that had been trained. When I left, we had done 8,000 in CAF D, another 800 in CAF C, 200 in CAF B, and 50 in CAF A. And that's why we are saying now that we need to develop football beyond the pitch. We believe that the technical aspect of football has really grown over time. But Kwalanda, during my period as CEO, it would interest you to know that the commercial aspect and how we build the football brand, that is an area that we've not quite exploited. It remains one of the areas that remain largely untapped, and with the potential to generate more revenue for the game. So we are focused on, yes, developing football on the pitch, but we're also saying that there's an importance to develop football beyond the pitch, so that a CEO of a club is well equipped with how do I come up with a strategic plan? How do I commercialize the club? How do I engage in the issue of player sales and player transfer and matters like sports law? Because only after that can we speak about sponsorships. And I keep saying this, companies are not charity organizations. TV47 will not air the FKF Premier League, and I'm giving this as an example, because they feel they need to help Kenyan football. TV47 will only come and buy broadcast rights for the league if they feel that there is value. And we need to create that value by creating the brand. So there is the aspect of creating the brand on the pitch, but there is also the aspect of capacity building our people and strengthening our decision-making process, engaging clubs more in the decision-making about our leagues and the professionalization setup of clubs.
And of course, you mentioned about TV47 airing, for example. That's, of course, an example. Airing FKF game matches. We've had that void for the last, since SuperSport left the stage. What happened? And you yourself, what would be your vision in that space?
I believe, because I looked at the SuperSport contract, and I want to say this, Tony, there is what we call a fiduciary relationship. And fiduciary relationships are very dangerous, because they're relationships where one party is more knowledgeable than the other. I'm not a medic, and I'm sure you're also not a medic, because I've known you for long, but you're really good at what you do.
Thank you.
If you were to go to the hospital today, useme wewe ni mgonjwa, the doctor tells you, fungua mdomo, lala pale chini, takes your temperature, sends you to the lab, the results come in, and you don't question, because you're not a medic. And there is the interesting part where they tell you, hii dawa, unakunywanga pombe? Hapana. Take it 4 times a day with a lot of water on an empty stomach. And you follow that as if it were the religious truth. You're doing it because you believe the doctor and you're not knowledgeable in that area. If you are a medic, you probably ask, why are you giving me this medicine for 4 times a day when there is one I can take 2 times a day? Now, back to the SuperSport deal. I believe that KPL meant well for the league, but I believe that the people who are heading KPL were not knowledgeable in the issue of commercialization of football assets. So what they did that I feel was wrong is that they gave SuperSport all rights, including rights that SuperSport were not exploiting. So for example, SuperSport were given radio rights, betting rights, data rights, FTA rights, and something again unique with the KPL setup was that the Kenyan laws as they are today, Tony, and most people don't know this. If me and you were to form a club, we have to register it with the Registrar of Sports. Now, when you register a club with the Registrar of Sports, if we want an investor to come and invest in that club, the way the laws are today is that that investor cannot own shares in that club. And so what KPL did that was unique, the KPL company, is that individuals registered as shareholders and directors of a company that was supposed to manage Kenyan football and take care of the interest of the whole FKFPL ecosystem. Now, the danger with that is in two areas. One is that if these shareholder directors pass a resolution, they sit and say, we are getting X money from TV47, and we feel that this money coming in, even though it's meant for clubs, we need to do apartments. There is nothing you can really do to them. The second aspect of it is that in football, there is the issue of sporting merit. So every year, a team is promoted to the Premier League, and another team is relegated. If Barry is a shareholder in that company, and my team is relegated, by law, I can only voluntarily give my shares to the team that has been promoted. If I refuse, then there is nothing that can be done to me. And so that setup was really fun. If you look at the Memorandum of Association or Understanding for the KPL, it's not something that can legally protect clubs, but that was then. This is what we intend to do, Tony.
Yes.
If elected, is that we believe that clubs should be more involved in the professionalization and management of our leagues, including the structure of the league and the size of the league. And we believe that this should be a discussion that we have with club chairmen. We also believe that club chairmen, because they suffer every day running these clubs, should have a say on how sponsorship money or commercial money from commercial partners that come in are used. We should make rules not for the club, but with the clubs. We should sit down and agree that in 2024, inshallah, God willing, if we win the 2024-2025 season, what was the takeaways? What were our challenges? What did we learn? Maybe there was an issue of hooliganism, there's an issue of match fixing, and then how do we move forward? I feel rather than the federation saying this is what we've learned and we've amended our rules this way, it should be more of let clubs come, let clubs offer suggestions. These suggestions can be then included in the rules and regulation, and there can be a sign-off so that it's clear from the onset if, for example, and this is just an example, I'm not saying Morangasil does it. If Morangasil engages in hooliganism, then as president, I don't say, dock Morangasil 6 points and ban them for 5 matches because I feel they don't support me. It is written, clubs have agreed, and it is known. Only then do we now, plus the club licensing criteria, do we now begin to build the football brand. So that's our vision for the leagues. And also including the cups. Let me give you an example. The FKFPL Cup, the Mozart Bet Cup, begins at the round of 64. And if you are a Premier League club today, when you are seeded normally, so when it starts, a Premier League club cannot play against another Premier League club. So you'll play against a grassroots club away. So there is a possibility that you play round of 64 with a team playing in the regional league, round of 32, a team playing in Div 1, round of 16, maybe a team playing in Div 2, quarterfinals, you play against a team maybe in the NSL, and then when you eventually win that cup, you are required to represent Kenya in the CAF Confederation Cup. And my feeling, even though I was an employee of FKF, as an employee sometimes you implement policies that have been passed by NEC.
Yes.
My feeling is that that competition is not strong enough to prepare you to go play Al Ahly of Egypt. Maybe we need to sit down with clubs and say, okay, because of club licensing and we want to implement club licensing not as a requirement, but because we want to develop Kenyan football, let all clubs that play in the NSL and in the FKFPL have their U20s or U18 participate in that. Let us create another competitive competition, maybe take 6 or 8 clubs from the NSL, 6 or 8 clubs from the FKFPL, do a home and away competition, and the winner of this cup then represent Kenya in the CAF Confederation. But these are discussions that we continue to have with the owners of the clubs. Yes. We had a very good engagement with FKFPL clubs. In the coming days, we'll meet the NSL and Div 1 clubs and continue to sell these ideas, because we will only achieve the professionalization of our league if clubs embrace it.
Yeah. And I will not let you go off the hook on the vision about broadcast rights, because currently we have our neighbor. There's a TV47 that comes from a neighboring country. And Mavindi, you also have some football cutaways of Harambee Stars, Junior Starlets, Rising Stars. President angependa kuona zake zenye zilikuwa zina shine, of course, please play them as well. But on that issue of, I'll say it Azam. Azam is shrouded in secrecy from where I sit. And of course from very many people. When is that secret coming out? And is it part of your vision to make this kind of contracts public, or you make it public within the members of FKF?
I don't want to say the Azam deal is shrouded in secret, because when it was launched, we called all FKFPL clubs, and I remember the FKF president saying that if you wanted to see the contract, you should come to FKF. But tied to that also is, and I say this, it might be a very unpopular opinion, there is an issue of, I'm trying to look for the right word. If you give me a contract and I don't know what to look at, even if I spend a week with it, then it becomes an issue. And sometimes you have people who believe that if my team is playing and I'm given some grants, I don't need to go into the details. What we are saying in our team is that there is need to capacity build. And I'm happy that recently FKF held the club professionalization workshop by FIFA.
Yes.
I'm pleased to say that I was strongly behind that. I suggested that to FIFA on a number of occasions, and eventually it was rolled out, so that when you sit at FKF and you receive an email, and this happens without personalizing, and for example a club sends you an email and the email comes in the form of loverboy@hotmail.com, and then you ask yourself whether then this is the same email that the club sends out proposal to sponsors. So we are saying that we need to capacity build to give our football administrators the right skill set to develop football. And I say this, Tony, as someone who's played football, and just for the sake of the viewers, allow me to explain. So football is largely in Kenya played by two types of people. So you have someone who was born in the slum like myself, or you have someone who was born up country. And one thing that we are not told from an early age is that the life of a footballer is really short. Because I'm 41 today, if you are 31 and you're playing football, watu wataanza kusema huyu jamaa ni mzee. But there is life after that. So you have your youth life, you develop, then you have your professional life, and then you have now life after retirement. Now, it would shock you, but these are the facts that came from the data that I interrogated during my time as FKF CEO. Nearly 99% of footballers do not work on themselves to transition into being administrators. So yes, we play football, we become very good footballers, and maybe Mariga is a good example. Very good footballer. If you look at the teams that he played for, I believe he's better than Messi, because I think he started playing professional football maybe at the age of 8, going back to Country Bus, Pipeline, Kenya Breweries, NSSF, and all the way to Inter. But then, does he have the necessary skill set to think strategically and at a boardroom level? Having interacted with him, having seen him, having looked at him, if you go to maybe his Wikipedia, there is nothing he's done administratively to equip himself with the right skills to develop football. So that is the area that we want to build, not only for our clubs, but also for FKF branches. Because FKF branches, if they are not empowered and if we do not have the right skill set, youth football will be affected, youth football will not develop, but also the general management of football will become an issue. So it is something that we are really key. I don't think that any contract is shrouded in mystery. Contracts are there at FKF. At least when I left contracts there. I believe that anyone who wants to look at these contracts, because they are public documents, and the rights are currently being exploited centrally, so everyone has got a right to question the contracts and know where this money is going. I feel what we ought to have done and what now we intend to do, because then I was an employee, now maybe I become president and chair the National Executive Committee, is to engage clubs more and not talk at them, talk to them and tell them that this is what we are getting from Azam. What are your proposals? Not this is what we are getting and this is how we will use it. Because that is where now you get a lot of conflict with these clubs. And we intend to bring clubs at a round table. When you negotiate some of these commercial deals,
yes.
Tony, it's very difficult to call all 18 FKFPL clubs to go to the offices of Maybet or Mozartbet and sit all of you and do a presentation. I mean, if you elected to be president or if you give someone the work of a CEO, you should also entrust them to go and negotiate on your behalf. When that deal is just about to be signed, then members are called and they're told, this is what is happening, what are your proposals? If we do that, then there is no risk of complaints.
Barry, the league, a lot of quarters are like, there's a lot of what FKF is doing currently might not be very healthy for our Premier League in terms of FKF being the ones who are macro-managing. I'm using that word very macro-managing this Premier League. What do you intend to do? You intend to change it, or do you intend to FKF to be the ones running football in the country? How would you go about that?
I don't think is what I intend. My question would be, what does the law allow for? The laws, and I explained this, the laws as they are today
yes.
does not allow for FKF to delegate the running of a league to a company. And there are also things that we did wrong in the past, and I'll give you an example with KPL. So KPL, Nyamoya's office delegated the entire running of the KPL to the KPL Limited company, including the technical aspect. So we are 18 clubs, and KPL, I think, elected some 6 or so directors who then sat at the KPL council and made decisions on behalf of the other clubs. So you would imagine that, let's say I'm Gor Mahia, I'm the chairman of Gor Mahia, and my committee is the one who appoints referees. And maybe Tusker is second, and the chair of Tusker does not sit in that committee. And you have FC who are third, and the chair of FC is the chairman of the disciplinary committee. Then there would be conflict. There needs to be clear separation of powers. If we are to delegate the running of the league, I don't think we would delegate the technical aspects. So referees appointment, disciplinary cases, that would remain with the federation. But within the FKF statute, we have to look at ways of how clubs feel that they're involved. Maybe form a board, maybe form a committee that sits with the FKF leadership. And then when the laws allow that a company can run the league, is a discussion that we can have.
Okay. FIFA is a very, FIFA is a partner, or actually...
We are affiliated to FIFA.
We are affiliated, I'm user. Thank you for using that word.
Thank you.
We are affiliated, FKF is affiliated to FIFA.
Yeah.
And of course, FIFA every year supports sports activities in the country or its member states. Yeah. We've had all those support from FIFA for all these years. What has it done during your tenure? What are some of the statistics you have during your tenure? And what are you going to do next? Because now people will be like, yes, FIFA has been doing this, we've been seeing this. So you yourself, delegates are watching, football stakeholders are watching.
I think not for me, but for any candidate that wins the FKF presidency,
yes,
the major challenge is debt. So when we came into office, or when I joined FKF in 2016, FKF had a debt of around $1.8 million, dating back to 2007. Debt around national team tickets, accommodation, KRA, unpaid taxes, which I believe when I left, well, we had a payment plan with KRA, and the federation was still paying. Now, based on that, is that FKF is not TV47, for example. TV47 might generate revenue through adverts. FKF assets are the leagues.
Yep.
And so you get money from commercial partnerships, or you get money as grants from FIFA. Now, there's a challenge with the FIFA grants, because if you look at the FIFA website, the grants are very specific on how they are used or utilized. So you cannot say that, yes, you receive $1.65 million in a year. You can't say that, I'll take that and build a mini stadium. It doesn't work like that. There is money that goes to operations, paying of salaries, paying of lights, and just ensuring that the federation is operational. And then there are money that go towards project. Now, this money is not enough, because sometimes that money is the one you use to pay debt. Coming to what we have done, or what we did with the money when I was there, is that we subsidized the issue of coaching courses. At some point, we had a center of excellence we trained referees, and there are a lot of match management costs that the federation incurs. So that money was used in that way. The financial statements for FKF in the FKF website. Do I feel that we did good? Yes. Is there room for improvement?
Yes.
Of course, there's room for improvement. And I believe with better policies to strengthen FKF branches, FKF committees, including the National Executive Committee, then we can now allocate resources in a manner which we use less resources to actually get maximum impact. I think that is what is lacking, and I feel that is where we fell short. And if elected, that is an area that I would really be keen on.
I'm looking at, of course, we had that presidential debate last time out, where you, of course, you honored it. We are still very grateful that you honored it.
Thank you for having me.
There are issues, of course, we are looking at, things like grassroots football development. We also had issues about management and accountability. You also had, in that breath as well, about player welfare, salaries, and all those things. You also have a vision. Now, in all those that I've mentioned, what would be, of course, your priority as you get into office?
Let me start with the issue of youth football development, because the future of anything, be it a company, be it sport, is in the youth.
Yes.
And youth development, Tony, is really simple. You develop youth players the way you build a house. So 0 to 9 years, if there's such an age, is the technical aspects. Me and the ball, learning to dribble, to control. And then 9 to around 16 is understanding that, and 0 to 9 is like the foundation. So you do a foundation for a house. Mm-hmm. And then 9 to 14, yes, you now know how to dribble, you now know how to pass, but you start understanding that football is not an individual sport. There is your role in a team setup. Mm-hmm. And you learn that up to age 16. So you start knowing that I can shoot and I can tackle. Maybe I'm a defender, but we are 4 defenders and we have 3 midfielders in front of us and 3 strikers. So there is a time I need to pass, there is a time I need to dribble, there's a time I need to cross, there's a time I need to shoot, because we are 11. At 16, and you can consider that as doing the roofs and all this stuff, putting the interiors, you now understand how to dribble, you can pass, but there is also now the role of the opponent. Yeah? You have an objective, that your objective is to win, because there is a competition aspect that is introduced at 16.
Yes.
We need to have a strategy to win. And then at 18, you can do very minimal to improve a player. It's fully mental. Now this is a pro player, and he needs to understand the demands of being a pro player. Now the challenge is this, Kolanda, and I said it during the debate. If you take 2 players at age 9, we're assuming at age 9 they can dribble, and there is potential, you can see potential. They can pass, they are good players. If you take 2 players at age 9, and one trains for 2,000 hours, and the other one trains for 10,000 hours, at age 16, the one who trained for 10,000 hours is a different player from the one who trained for 2,000. Mm-hmm. But also more interesting is that if you take again 2 players, same potential, at age 9, and they both train for 10,000 hours before they're 16, and one is handled by a good coach, qualified coach, and one is handled by a bad coach. At 16, again, they are different players. But how then do you ensure that you solve this problem? You ask yourself, where do players spend most of their time? At that age, and looking at our curriculum, they spend their time in school. And who is with them in school? Teachers. Of course, there is a smaller percentage of kids who go to informal schools who you also need to take care of. So in terms of grassroots development, our vision and aim and intention, because it must be very deliberate, is that we will train more teachers and we will empower FKF branches financially, but also just with the right skill set to understand the bigger and broader vision of developing Kenyan football, to have competitions for this school and then try, because if you look at the Senegalese league, Cameroon league, Ghanaian league, our league as it is today, our local league is better than those leagues. But what they've managed to do is that they've learned the secret of taking kids before they are 16 in their droves to Europe, so that they stay in Europe for maybe 4-6 years. When they come back to play in the national team, they are really good players. Why? Because the facilities in Europe are better, and iron sharpens iron. Better quality of opponent, so when they come back home, they can do something for the national team. So in terms of grassroots, that is what we intend to do. Have school leagues for these schools, but also through club licensing, we know that clubs are really suffering. Yes. At the moment, we do not have a lot of resources for clubs. Have clubs partner with these schools. Okay. And also now have some sort of a youth league, because the structure now, the way it is, and maybe it's something I need to apologize on, it's a bit messed up. If Gor Mahia were to have a youth side, it plays in the normal FKF structure. So there's a risk that Gor Mahia youth can be promoted to the Premier League. And there's an issue of one entity owning more than 2 teams in one competition. Because then if Gor is number 1 and Gor Mahia youth is number 2, and they are playing in the last match, maybe, I'm just saying maybe, someone might say, let Gor win. And it brings issues of integrity around the league. But with this idea to develop our grassroots and the club licensing criteria, clubs can actually adapt schools as centers of excellence. We could do a U13, a U15 for them, and a U18, because at past 18, this player should be playing in the Gor Mahia senior. And that is what we have. In the issue of accountability, I think FKF members can only question if they're equipped with the right skill set, because then it means we have a better aptitude. Yeah? If we want to lead people and do not want to empower them so that they don't question, there's a fundamental issue around that. And that's why we are really strong on capacity building. We want to train our FKF branch officials. We want to train our club officials so that they can say, hey, look here, we received this year $2 million. How was it used? Why was it used that way? Why wasn't I asked? Without that training and without the necessary exposure, sometimes a few might understand and might question, but a majority might just sit and pass things sometimes not knowing. I'm not saying that's what's happening, but there is a risk there that we need to ensure accountability by uplifting our people. And this stems from my background when I said that most of our football administrators were players. They knew how to play well, but maybe we have done them a lot of disservice by not training them and equipping them with the right skills beyond the pitch.
You know, we mentioned about transfers. Also, from where I sit, maybe from where many people sit, transfers are done, for example, player being bought wherever, Uganda, Tanzania, or in the Europe. There's also a lot of, we don't know what's going on. In your vision, how do you intend to really streamline that? Because people need to know that. And if they know that, they will understand from the grassroots, if I'm getting into this, I know structures will take care of me to reach either Europe or to Uganda or to wherever.
So that's in 2 folds, Tony. One is that there needs to be a clear pathway for you, if you have a kid in your house. There needs to be a clear pathway that shows you how your kid can leave your sitting room and end up at Manchester United or Bournemouth. That's just an example.
Yeah.
And 2 is the issue of capacity building again. Whereas this kid has a clear pathway, the people that are handling him administratively, are they knowledgeable enough to understand how to do contracts? Yeah? How to negotiate, how to negotiate on behalf of this kid? Most of the time, the answer is no. And that's why you've seen that even our biggest clubs have been sanctioned and told not to sign because they released players in the wrong way, because they signed players in the wrong way. And how we intend to solve that problem is to ensure that at least, we're not talking about taking people back to school, but the basics of sports law and how transfers should be done and how contracts should be negotiated and how contracts should be terminated is something that FKF delegates should be exposed to, either through workshops, through training, or through knowledge transfer. We could say that there's a possibility we could go benchmark in Tanzania, because ideally we were somewhere, but Tanzania, it is good to accept. And I feel Tanzania have really done well. I feel they are ahead of us. And maybe we could just go and ask them, what are you doing? And as a people or as football stakeholders, we can come back and see what works, take it and coin it to suit our scenario, and then move.
And
but also we plan to have an ethics committee.
Because we have a lot of academies are mushrooming up, but someone in Mandera cannot afford to pay these academies. So how do you intend to reach to this individual in Lamu County, that kid who is there, to reach to Manchester? They don't have the equal opportunities as the ones in Nairobi. In 2 minutes before I ask you the last question. Yeah,
the issue is it's good that academies are coming up, but the sad reality, Tony, is that most of them are coming up as commercial ventures. And I'll give you an example of Ajax, for example. So when you go to the Netherlands, there's the Ajax Academy. And there are kids that are really talented, scouted at a very young age, and are put under contract. But there are also kids, because players develop differently at different stages. So there are kids who come to the academy and pay. Now in Kenya, they are swamped up together. And what we've not done effectively is that we've not also sensitized parents to know who is a good coach and who is a bad coach. We think that if we see 100 kids playing with uniform, that's an academy. No, there is a criteria of having an academy. I think at FKF now we have a 4-star criteria where you can say this is academy 1-star because of X. This is academy this because of this. But the key thing is your kid being handled with the right coach? And how can you tell? That's something that I have to admit we need to communicate properly on. And I believe that if elected is one area that we will really not look at the technical aspect of it, but also to assist parents to know which academies are good to take their kids.
But FKF regulates those particular academies.
Yeah,
FKF has been part of that.
There are those that are regularized, and Tony, the reality on the ground is that there are those that are not. And I'll give you an example. You work in the media today, and I'm sure you have some house policy or editorial policies that you observe, but there are also people who read news on their phones. And people follow them. Are they journalists? I don't believe so. Is it TV24's fault, TV47's fault? It's not. And it's the same in football. It's just to ensure that you have structures and processes and ensure that they are working. We will not solve it 100%, but for sure we can mitigate.
In 3 minutes, the relationship between the Kenyan government, the Ministry of Sports, FIFA, CAF, in the past we've seen FKF hiding behind FIFA when they find themselves between a rock and a hard place. Is that the same thing we'll be seeing when you take office?
No. I think first of all is to say that during my period at FKF, we never had an issue with FIFA or CAF. Now, there's a fundamental issue that if elected, we need to sit down with government and look at. So the issue of Sports Act, and how the Sports Act has been implemented or how it was crafted. It has done well in certain aspects because the Sports Act gave birth to the Sports Tribunal. The Sports Act gave birth to the Sports Fund, which then funds national teams. But there are areas of the Act that needs to be implemented. And if you allow me, in under 1 minute, I can give you an example. So today, the office of the Sports Registrar is it's located in Nairobi. Now the reality is this, Tony. The reality is that if a kid from my home county in Siaya wants to play football at age 7, he doesn't board a bus and come to an SSF and register a club. It doesn't work that way. He will wake up, he will start playing with 2 kids, they will realize there are 5 kids over there, they will form a team, they will play with the next village, then they will end up playing in an FKF league. Now, that is at age 7. Assume these people play until they are 30. And they eventually learn that, I can actually run for office. And then they are told, you cannot run because you never registered with the Registrar of Sports. What we would be advising government, and I've spoken at length with government about this, is that the office of the Sports Registrar needs to be devolved. But also, the Sports Act needs our government needs to understand that sports are not the same. This act needs to be looked at with the eye that football is different from rugby, and football is affiliated to FIFA, rugby is affiliated to the rugby international body, and so you cannot say that this act in the same way governs chess, handball, football, and the last time I checked, we had over 400 federations. So the act in itself has got things that need to be changed to minimize conflict between federation and international bodies. And why? Why is, most people don't know, but why is football so big today, Tony? Football is big because the universal rules and regulations governing Kenyan football, international football, are the same. There is no offside for England and offside for Kenya. There is no handball for China and handball for Somali. The laws of the game are the same. Imagine then, Tony, if, and FIFA has got 211 member associations, most of them being countries and territories. The UN has got 196. Imagine if the 54 African countries all say that we have our Sports Act and they need to be followed. Then it would mean that there is a country that will say if Harambee Stars are playing them, because of affirmative action, 3 players need to be women. It causes an issue at a global level. So, and imagine if every country insisted that before we play you, you must adhere to our Sports Act. Football would be diluted. So sometimes by threatening a federation, what most people do not know is that you are actually threatening the very existence of FIFA. It's not that we hide behind FIFA. It's only that if some things happen in Kenya, then imagine how what countries considered footballing nations, German, Brazil, Argentina, would do to football. So it's to look at where the Sports Act has worked well for us and reinforce it. I am happy to listen of areas that we fall short and how we can solve that. But I am also willing to sit down with government and engage them and tell them this might not work in a footballing system. Let's look at what's happening globally. Let's amend this act so that we develop football realistically. You
want to do that at this time because I understand this week the CS Murkomen told the Senate that they'll be done with the review of the national sports policy and the Sports Act by December.
We already gave our recommendations for the review.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you very much, Barry Otieno. Unless you have 30 seconds in case you've left out anything to share. 30 seconds, going once.
Yeah, so mine is
seconds, yes.
Mine is short, Tony. Thank you for the platform.
Karibu.
I think my message would be to the FKF delegates. I've worked with them and for them for the last 5 years. We have elections coming, and my humble request would be that they vote with their conviction. I understand and I know well aware that there are people who are running on the basis that they have money and they think that FKF delegates are stupid, that they will give them money and they will vote based on the money that they give them. I have been with a majority of these people. A few might be voted in, but I want to urge them. Yes, there might be money. I think we are the underfunded campaign because I was just an employee until last week. Most of the other people maybe run businesses. They have unlimited budget to give out money. Mine is to say that let's vote with conviction. Let's vote for what we feel is right for Kenyan football, and let's change Kenyan football together. Let's ensure that we develop it beyond the pitch. Thank you very much, Barry Otieno, and Football Kenya Federation Presidential Aspirant 2024, amongst 8 others who will be contesting for the seat on the 7th of December.